You know, I was really happy when they released this event. Now call me biased because this event has all Hatham in it. If you know me, I love this man to the core. I even Sizzix him. That is how much I love him despite how dog shit these constellations are. However, what makes me happy is that my prediction about this event is correct. Not all of them are true, but 80% of them are. That being said, I know this event didn't have a lot of things going on, not too surprising because the budget likely went to the Archon Quest and the Miliastra Wonderland. The moons mentioned by Layla isn't particularly that relevant, which honestly isn't too surprising, but there's a good reason why it was spoken. We also learn more about the 7 pillars, Nefer's background, and surprisingly, the Dottore. I also go out of my way to even translate this part of the quest. Yes, I did that. All for your entertainment purposes. And we'll talk about them as we go. Today, we'll do a brief recap on what this event is all about and we can theorize from there. Even though we don't learn much from this event, I'll try to make it as interesting as possible for you to enjoy. As always, don't forget to give this video a like and comment so the channel can be noticed by the algorithm. My name is Neko Gitsune and I make lore and commentary videos on the channel to keep you company. But before that, Arlecchino and Zhongli's banners are finally here. While they have fallen out of the meta, I own these characters myself and I can safely say that they're still good enough to use in this day and age in the endgame. However, you might want to keep a lookout on Durin, who is rumored to be our second dedicated power sub DPS in the game, which is insane to think about because Xiangling is our only dedicated power sub DPS for 5 years. If you need extra power gems to pull or save for Durin, then allow me to introduce you to Loot Bar. Loot Bar is a reliable site for a fast, secure, and super reliable top-up experience for your Genesis Crystal. Additionally, they provide 25% discounts compared to normal prices in-game. Once you start your top-up, they will only ask for your UID, nothing else, so your privacy is guaranteed, and your items will arrive to your account in less than 2 minutes, including the first double top-up rewards if you haven't done that yet. With Miliastra Wonderland's release, you can also top up Kernel Nexus in Loot Bar the same way as you do it with Primogems. If you're playing on consoles like PlayStation 5 or Xbox, they're available for both of them as well. Over 20,000 Trustpilot reviews are showing their satisfaction after using Loot Bar, and if you have any problem with your transaction, their customer service is always available around the clock to help you out. Other than Genshin Impact, Loot Bar is also available for other games as well, such as Honkai Star Rail, Wuthering Waves, Sailor Zone Zero, etc. Click the link in the description below and register to get an additional 10% coupon that can be combined with all other discounts and receive special discounts for returning customers along with 1 week limited lucky draw event for lucky users. Remember, discounts are great, but don't forget to spend responsibly. Now let's continue with the content. The quest starts with the traveler visiting Sumeru, meeting Collei and Cyrus in the process. This conversation basically talks about the game's events, so we'll be skipping that part, but Collei told us that Layla, Tinari, Sethos, and Cyno are at Gandharvaville, so Paimon and the traveler decide to visit them. This is where the event quest officially starts. Return from the mysterious realm. Arriving at Gandharvaville, we meet with Layla, who is in a state of delirium, repeating the words of, "How many moons are there in the sky?" Now we'll get back to this, but it is said by Cyno and Sethos that Layla got into this state because she fell into a quicksand in the desert, falling into some sort of temple. After getting rescued, she's already in a state of delirium, but she could not remember what happened. But when night falls, the other Layla takes over Layla's body and explains everything to the traveler. So after Layla got sucked into the quicksand, the other Layla took over her body and tried to find an exit. She pressed a mechanism nearby and suddenly she experienced a rush of memories in her head. There are a lot of words here, and for you guys, I translate every single sentence in this scene to make this video. I am super dedicated, yes, and you should definitely thank me later, or you just can thank me by subscribing, you know, because it took me a lot of time and effort to not only translate them, but also decipher them. So Layla's information overload scene is actually written in King Deshret's letters and language. One of you pointed out that Deshret's language is written in Semitic languages, which are abjads that also include Arabic letters, and they usually don't write the vowels. Perfect, this makes my job even harder. However, some of them are written in different languages, so let me give you the translation of each sentences. You can skip to this time step if you want to continue with the recap, and if you're Arabic or speak Semitic languages, please let me know in the comments. This sentence could be Thoth's conversation with Herishaf and Sobek, a reminder of what they probably have done in Kashnisut and King Deshret's throne. This one has no vowels, so I can't say anything on that, but from my very unprofessional translation in Arabic by using Google Translate, it seems this talks about someone who sends news to the people or talks about theft, which could probably imply Goudarz's deeds. I'm pretty sure Deshret is mentioned, but either way, please enlighten me in the comments about this one. This could be related to Icanum and the goddess of flowers, as the third line is a Greek word that translates to cruel world of love, matching with her and King Deshret, who are implied to be couples, or at least attracted to each other. But for the rest of the letters, according to Google Translate's unreliable translation, it could mean something on the lines of the priest's heavy momentum have died out. So if it's combined, it could mean something on the lines of the priest's heavy momentum have died out by the hands of the cruel worlds of love. Later in the quest, we learn that Makhaira gained a gift from Thoth that relates to be loved, but we'll talk about that later. This statement is very straightforward, as they are the names of the 7 pillars. These are the smaller words, and to put it simply, they are parts of the longer sentences, but they do mention Azar, which could likely relate to Azar. So after the information overload stops, Layla continues to keep thinking about how many moons are there in the sky. Suddenly, a black cat appeared and showed Layla the exit. That's where her story ends, and then Layla turns back into normal. The three had a conversation and oh my god! Okay, calm down, it's alright. You see him every day, you use him in your gameplay, and you also put him on your phone screen. It's alright, it's just all my husband is here. Look at him, he's so handsome, he's so hot, he's so beautiful, he's perfect. Oh my god. Dear Archons, I just got recovered from my sickness and all of them appeared like this. Anyway, sorry for that embarrassing moment. Al-Haytham and Cafe overheard Layla and the traveler's conversation, and intrigued by her situation, the two decided to follow Layla and the traveler, and this is where the first part of the event ends. Now let's move on to the second part. After 2 days, everyone gathered at the quicksand. The main cast are going to enter the quicksand while the others will remain above the ground in case an emergency happens. Look at him being annoying again. Lowly scribe my ass, he's literally the body of knowledge as per Nahida. Body of knowledge indeed. Anyway, everyone enters the quicksand, and this is where the second act of the event quest officially starts. Headlong into the sands. Falling into the quicksand, everyone arrives at a mysterious temple, and if you remember, this is the same temple that Nefer visited after she murdered the Eab tribe's chief. This could only mean one thing: we are in Thoth's domain. But because Nefer's power is classified information, the Traveler and Paimon never mention them to the gang and keep it to themselves. The gang split up, with the first gang, Saino, Tinaki, and Sethos entering the chamber to the right. They found a slab, and after piecing them together, it's a picture of the 3 of the 7 pillars, or likely the 3 Magi as per version 3.1's title. There's Herishaf, the Minister of Ministers, who was Deshret's most trusted counselor, the deputy, and the head of the 7 pillars. Second is Sobek, the captain of captains, who has the dominion of all weapons and head of war. And finally, there's Thoth, the scribe of scribes, the representation of Deshret's wisest aspect, responsible for making Desert script, which I assume to be King Deshret's language, and also creating arcane arts under Deshret's command. But despite their deeds, it is said in the slab that these 3 displeases King Deshret and were sent to Aru, a place that is within the far side of eternity. For the sake of this video's flow, I'll explain to you why they were sent there later. After the first gang's discovery, we switch POV to calm down, it's alright. Okay, at least I'm using my algorithm and not the trial one. Good. Anyway, we switch to Kaveh and Al-Haytham's POV, where they also found an ancient slab. This time, we learned that Thoth answered a call of a young noble named Goudarz, but the crown he was bestowed with shadowed by lies in the end. They then find a second slab where this time it talks about a queen regent by the name of Makhaira, who is a half-blooded Jinni. She is also the queen of Tulaytula, but she killed herself when her enemies were about to end her reign with a snake viper. Now for Makhaira's case, there's actually a deeper information about this part, and for the sake of this video's flow, just like last time, we'll talk about this in a bit. Finally, we enter the Traveler and Layla's POV where we encounter notes left behind a scholar with their partner. That scholar turned out to be, get this, Zandik, or in other words, the past day of Dottore. I know, exciting, eh? So let me summarize everything said in these notes. So basically, Zandik grew tired of the academia. The Akasha shackled him, and the academia's constant discrimination towards the desert folk made him sick. He somehow managed to find a way to the desert and fell into Thoth's domain along with the senior Ratawa, his scholar. As you can already guess in his second note, he continues to roast the poor scholar because of his incompetence after tending his wounds. Dear Archons, chill, what did he do to you? Anyway, even though he fell into the ruins, he implied that place to be a gold mine of knowledge and continued to research everything about the 7 pillars. He eventually met Thoth in the form of a cat, and just like Nefer, Zandik did not buy any of Thoth's stories as he can already tell that he was exaggerating them. Still, he knew that Thoth was not completely lying to him either, and kept the information he told him as a research material. Even though Thoth told him where the exit was, Zandik remained in the temple until his supplies ran out, and he refused to accept anything from Thoth. He ended the note with a statement, "Do not trust the Ibis King," and was glad that he saved the senior scholar. The gang reunites, and after sharing their discoveries, Thoth appears to them in the form of the same cat that guides the gang the whole time. He then invites the gang to his personal chamber, where we also find Harry Chef and Sobek's statue with an interesting mural of Deshret. Now for the cat, basically this temple used to be his domain before he was imprisoned in Nabu, and he is a huge fan of cats. He's a crazy cat man. Now the temple is owned by the descendants of his cats, and he occasionally borrows their body to speak with humans. Nefer's cat Ashru is also one of them, but the cat ended up following Nefer. Nefer believes that Thoth will talk to her again in the future in the form of Ashru. Anyways, Thoth reveals some interesting lore, but here's the problem. I've been reading a lot of Sumeru lore ever since Luna 2 was out, and you know that he is called the Lord of Lies for a reason. What I'm trying to say is that even now, he told a few lies to the gang without them realizing it. So you're lucky that I'm here to tell you what actually happened in his story. While we still do a recap, we also enter the analysis and theory section of this video. But before we continue, this video took plenty of time and effort to make, let alone the recap was supposed to be a bit shorter but ended up getting longer because of Thoth's conversation with us, so please, liking and subscribing will help this channel a lot as it lets me know that I'm doing a good job. With that said, let's continue. So Thoth said that he can bestow gifts to his visitors, but only the chosen ones that he deemed worthy can be granted with his gift. The only requirement is by answering his question, where they were given to him by King Deshret, and these questions were given to Deshret by Nabu Malikata. This one is true because in the book called The Scroll of Streaming Song, it was implied that Nabu Malikata posed Rukkhadevata 3 riddles and she was able to answer them perfectly. Considering that's the case and all 3 of them became the 3 eternal companion gods of Sumeru, it wouldn't be a surprise if she also posed 3 riddles to Deshret as well, but he ended up unable to answer them. The questions are, what causes our rise and fall? What obliterates love and hate? What determines truth and falsehood? 2 of them were already answered. The first question was answered by Goudarz, and this was elaborated in Nefer's signature weapon, while the second question was answered by Makhaira, which is a new information that we got in this event. They were recorded by priests who still lived at that time, and it was after Thoth was imprisoned in Aru. Now before we continue, I just want to say that these 3 questions are interesting because it actually relates to how Nabu Malikata's rays fall. Nabu Malikata is an angel. What causes our rise and fall could likely relate to Hyperborea. What obliterates love and hate could likely relate to the Voyager and the First Angel, Koitach and Seutech-Voinen. And what determines truth and falsehood could also relate to Seutech-Voinen because she was the one who told Koitach about the truth of the heavenly principles, the false sky, and also Tevat. The questions that Nabu Malikata posed to Rukkhadevata also relate to the heavenly principles and also likely relate to Kaenvia. The second thing that Thoth talk about is the history of the 7 pillars, where they stood as the pinnacle of knowledge and served as King Deshret's finest and most trusted underlings. Together, they discussed the past, present, and future, and the inevitable progress of their civilization. But knowing how closed off the world is, Thoth already knew that things wouldn't end the way Deshret hoped. This actually makes sense because in Nefer's signature weapon description, it is stated that Thoth was a secret envoy to the moon and stars. His real-life references supports this as well because he is based on a moon deity, so it fits perfectly that he'd know that Teyvat is closed off and shielded by the false sky. But there's also new information we got from him. Apparently, there have always been 7 pillars, but one of them is forever absent. Apep was said to be that final member, but she herself rejected that idea. This is actually confirmed in the dialogues of the Desert Sages, the magical girl event weapon from version 4.5. Just keep in mind that only the first paragraph of that weapon's lore is canon, the rest of it is fanfiction written as part of Inazuman light novel. He then talked about how Deshret's life grew unbearable and it affected all of the 7 pillars members. Those who remained must live on, and Thoth said that subjects like him were less fortunate because at the end, only their king can decide what to do with his own subjects. So, Deshret imprisoned Thoth, Herishaf, and Sobek in Aru until this day. Now this is the first lie that he told to the gang because he said it like they were innocent from the start. If you read the book called The Lay of al-ahmar, it tells you in great detail what made Deshret imprison these 3 in the first place. Even though it was not told that they were imprisoned in the book, their deeds in this book are more than likely to be the reason why they were imprisoned in the first place. So this book was, I assume, found by Fahumana researchers as Cyrus actually mentioned them at the end of the quest, and it was sold by a jinni. For a reminder, jinnis are the byproduct creation of the goddess of flowers, and after she fell, they followed King Deshret. That said, we can safely assume that this book has good credibility. To put it simply, these 3 incite King Deshret to further pursue the forbidden knowledge. It was said that the moment King Deshret is completely engulfed by it, he unleashes them to the world and disaster strikes within the desert with the spreading of Elazar, the withering, and destroyed his city in an instant. The book also said that the 3 Magi tried to covet the forbidden knowledge for themselves, but thankfully, we learned in the Archon quest that Rugadevada came to the rescue, and it was implied that King Deshret regained a bit of sanity when she came. It's likely after this time that he imprisoned the 3 Magi into Aru, which matches with the stone slate that was recorded in the temple during Sino's POV. The ministers are unvirtuous, the scribes are unwise, the captains unworthy. My end is not humanity's end, hereby bestow upon you all the far side of eternity, or Aru as per the game subtitle. Basically, this is the reason why Zandik and Nefer did not trust Thoth completely. They knew that these 3 were imprisoned in Aru for a reason, and assuming they've read this book since it's in the house of Dina, then this could be the main reason why. And even though Aru is an eternal paradise in the Egyptian mythology, it can also be translated as disgrace in Arabic, so for these 3 to be imprisoned there made a lot of sense. Instead of it being an eternal paradise, it's an eternal prison for the 3 disgraceful subjects of King Deshret. Thoth then talks about the 3 questions that he mentioned earlier. Before he entered Aru, Deshret told him that he can be freed by his eternal imprisonment if he could find 3 humans that can give the correct answers to the 3 questions that were given to him by Nabu Malikata. This part is true because it was mentioned in Nefer's signature weapon as well. He mentioned that Goudarz was given the power to deceive and Makhaira was given the power to be loved. To make it short for you all, the exact story of what happened in Goudarz and Thoth's conversation are written in detail in Nefer's signature weapon. This man is also the reason why there's a lot of Thoth's statue across the desert because back then, he became the king of the desert by claiming that he saw Deshret's illusion, telling him to be the next king of the desert. That of course is not true and was the result of Thoth's power of lies. Goudarz's method of ruling are indeed shameful because the power of lies that was bestowed to him ended up making all of his family turn against him. His rulership was then deposed by Zumurrud by having 99 children to depose Goudarz's ruling, creating more cities in the process and thus ending Goudarz's rulership. At the end, his lies destroyed him. Next is Makhaira, a human with half Jinni bloodline and was said to be Siphos' lover before she became the regent queen of Tuletula. After Goudarz's fall, Zumurrud's descendant then became the king of Tuletula by the name of Faramas. Because he was underage at the time, Makhaira became the regent queen. There are few times that Faramas was exiled and dethroned, and Makhaira continuously murdered the current king of Tuletula at the time, and this happened multiple times. Eventually, Faramas grew wary of Makhaira's actions experience despite being in love with her, and he ended up murdering her by making her kiss a viper's venom. Al-Haytham and Kaveh's version were read in books and unreadable primal obelisks in the desert, while the version I got is from the Deepwood Memories artifact set. Since artifact sets are depicted as the canon lore in this game, it's safe to assume that her own power to be loved ended up destroying her as well by having Faramas, who loved her, murdering her. Finally, there's Nefer, which I find interesting because Thoth said that her answer was interesting according to him, so he ended up giving her power to seek the truth as mentioned by Nefer in the Song of Welcome Moon Arconquest. It was later that Thoth gave her a moon wheel as per her voice line years after that. I find it interesting because if Thoth's power can indeed bring demise to people by having their own power to backfire, then what happened in the Arconquest could likely have been her own demise because she knew way too much that it almost killed her. Goudarz lied too many times that it ended his reign, Makhaira's obsession with Faramas also ended up killing her, and this goes the same with Nefer, who knew too much of Fairy's background that it almost killed her. If Alice's brooch wasn't there, then Nefer likely would have perished by now. But given, both Makhaira and Goudarz's demise were like that because it was from their own selfish reasons. Nefer is not like that, although if you think about it, she kinda is quite selfish since the Curatorium of Secrets were made to make profit anyway. She used Thoth's power from time to time to find intel, so it wouldn't be a surprise if she ended up dead from Thoth's power. When he asked Kaveh was it really because of his power or the holder's selfish reasons, he actually made a good point, and it's a question that none of us can answer. But the interesting part of it is that Thoth stated himself that her fate remains to be unseen, so he likely knew what Nefer has been doing this whole time, matching with Nefer's Moonwheel voice line as Thoth kept spying on her 24/7. Finally, he then talked about Zandik, and despite Thoth's already foul reputation, he actually disliked him. Man, even someone that Zandik barely knew hates him. Anyways, Thoth knew that Zandik is a very smart individual and he was even considering giving his final gift. However, he found that Zandik is mistrustful and narcissistic, and there's no line that he is unwilling to cross. Zandik declined Thoth's gift, and Thoth was relieved with that answer after realizing how dangerous he was. Zandik gave him a contempt and disdain look, literally mocking him with a gaze before leaving. Based on the notes we found, we learned that Zandik treated his companion horribly, and in order to save that companion, Thoth told Zandik a half-lie to keep his companion with him, otherwise he can't leave because only the descendant of Tulatula can enter and exit as they please. The lie is in the first half because Zandik's companion is indeed a descendant of Tulatula, and Layla is a descendant of that companion, which means that Layla is also a descendant of Tulatula. According to Thoth, Hermanubis took in many people that have no places to go in Tulatula, and their descendants have scattered to 4 winds. Interesting, isn't it? Mondstadt got mentioned because the 4 winds are the gods of Mondstadt under Barbados. This could mean that some of them lived in Mondstadt, and Klee, or Alice in this case, could be one of them as well because Thoth mentioned Layla's ear specifically. But if you ask me, Zandik's refusal made a lot of sense. The Fatui members never have strong relationship with the gods anyway, except maybe Columbina and Child, because Columbina is a moon goddess while Child is a very loyal member towards the Tsaritsa. The other members however show their dislike towards the gods, including the Tsaritsa who is left with a huge scar by the heavenly principles. Even though Zandik doesn't necessarily hate Nahida or Rukkhadevada, like dude, what did they do to you? It's more so that he hates the academia. I guess he does hate Rukkhadevada because the Akasha system not only is a tracking machine for the academia, but also can limit the knowledge that you can pursue, and it was created by Rukkhadevada. It's quite interesting when you think about it because I always thought that Zandik is quite a strange name in a Middle Eastern inspired nation until you realize that his name is in Arabic Zandik, which means heretic. Although speaking of that, can you imagine what would have happened if Zandik accepted Thoth's blessing? If that's going to happen, Nefer will never. Man, it's so weird to even say that, but anyway, she will never get her moon wheel and she will probably be an ordinary woman in this day and age. As for Zandik, he is a person who wanted to push the limits of knowledge. It's so bad that he would create a segment of himself, literally define the rules of life and death. So for him to find the truth using Thoth's chess piece, yes, it would be quite terrifying to think about. Now about the how many moons are there in the sky. Thoth said that he was the one planted that thought in Layla's mind because she accidentally activated Deshret's machine that caused her to experience information overload in her brain. He says don't think too much about it as if there's not much meaning behind it, and that, my friend, is another blatant lie that he tells to the group. Obviously, we knew that there are 3 moons in the sky, but the lie is when he claims there is not much meaning behind it. He did say that it was a spontaneous decision, but at the end of the day, Thoth knew how many moons in the sky because he is an envoy of the moons and stars. It would be very surprising if he doesn't know anything about it, and it's even more evident with the moon symbolism in his mural and the power that he gave to the people that answered his questions. Goudarz and Makhaira have the crimson moon symbolism in their mural, and Nefer was given a moon wheel by him. So it's very possible that Goudarz and Makhaira also wield a moon wheel along with the gift Thoth gave them. The fact that he planted that information on Layla could likely mean that he was aware that she is a descendant of Tulaytula, and the fact that he remembered the information he put on her means that he was well aware of what information he put on her. If you read Not Christ lore enough, there's even a saying that there are 4 moons in the sky instead of 3, and it's very possible that Thoth knew about this information as well. However, as much of a lie it is, it's better if he didn't tell the gang about it anyway because the Heavenly Principles has been hiding that information from the people of Teyvat for a very long time. The Traveler didn't say anything about it to the gang anyway, and it might cause more harm than good if they know, so props to Thoth on that one. The conversation ended with Thoth departing from the cat and continuing his endless chess game with Sobek. Even though he has wishful thinking to be set free, deep down he knows that the answers will likely not change his fate. After exiting the temple, Cyrus greets them and finds it fascinating that Thoth even let them go. He even said that we were lucky enough that Thoth set them free because he has a really bad track record, and what I told you just now is literally just that. Well, the answer is simple. Thoth has not enough reason to not help them, and I agree. Why would you keep unimportant people in your dope anyway? It's just going to be more of a mess than anything else. With that said, everyone returns home, and this is where the event quest officially ends. You can talk to some of the casts after that, and if you visit Gandharvaville, you can talk with Tinari, Sino, and Sethos, and they talk about the Hat Guy or Wanderer going to Notcry. Sethos says that Wanderer went to Notcry for unfinished business, and considering this event talks about Zandik, it's likely related to him, and also, Dottore told Nahida about the false guy in the Archon quest, so it's very likely that Nahida sent Wanderer to go to Notcry and probably worked together with Alice in the process. This is where the recap officially ends. What do you think? It's a lot more interesting when I tell you about the context now. Although, to be fair, I kinda wish they would go deeper with this event because they could have explained more about Thoth and his connection with the moon. It's very clear that he is connected to the moon since he gave Nefer a moon wheel, he has strong relationship with Nabu Malikata, and he is a secret envoy of the moons and stars. I find it interesting that Thoth was the only one offered by Deshret to be set free, likely because he knew that Thoth might be useful in the future. More than not, we'll likely meet him again in the future, maybe when we'll face Dottore again because he has a connection with him. Besides, as much of a shameful god Thoth is, I have to admit, I really like his character. He sounds like a funny uncle to me. But with that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Jana!